Now, for some analysis, let's bring in Shahab Enam Khan, who's a professor at Jahangirnagar University in Bangladesh's capital. Good to have you here with us on TRT World. Correct me if I'm wrong, what we are witnessing right now is the result of a 2011 Supreme Court verdict that basically struck down a constitutional provision that allowed an incumbent government to transfer power to a caretaker government.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that is the key point. One hand, the government is not willing to go beyond its constitutional mandate. On the other hand, the opposition has come up with a political demand that the election should not be held under the political government. And our history of last 30 years essentially showed that caretaker government has played an incredibly important role in mitigating the deadlocks that we have been talking about, as Kamru Zaman has mentioned, and such a precarious situation. So therefore, both the sides have their own demands in which constitutional changes since 2011 features the most and creates the whole political deadlock at the moment.
Right, Shahab, stay with us. I want to show you this footage of how authorities within Bangladesh are trying to contain the protests. Let's have a look. I mean, if I may, this looks quite distressing and barbaric, if I may. Shahab, what are your thoughts?
Certainly, there is no reason to really justify such an act, because what we have been seeing for quite some time is the unruly engagement of the law enforcement agencies, which sometimes really translate into a very distressing situation. And that's exactly one of the key points for the opposition to argue, that the way the law enforcement agencies often behave is probably not be helpful during the electoral time, in which the political party will essentially use the same method. But on the other hand, the law enforcement agency or the government has their own justification by saying that violence is not acceptable. And in that case, I think whatever the arguments over there is, the violation of human rights is quite inevitably seen in these cases. And I must remind you that the United States recently announced a visa policy in which they're going to really observe the behavior of the law enforcement agencies in this spectrum. And I think that is going to be one of the key defining factors in the coming days, how the law enforcement agencies will reach out to the people, how they're going to contain violence, and how they will bring confidence of the public on them.
So, Shahab, there are two main sides in this crisis. Number one is, of course, the government, and number two is the opposition. And the problem here is that both these sides are not ready to make any sorts of concession. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where the engagement between these two political parties is extremely important. And there is a nationwide demand for both the political parties to sit together and discuss these issues, which we don't get to see any symptom among the political parties to really come together and speak to each other on the various issues. And I think if they don't talk to each other, and if they don't really bring some meaningful solutions for each other, I don't see that these two political parties will be able to handle the situation that is unfolding at the moment. Inflation is a critical issue. Both the parties do really have to talk about it. They do really have to talk about the energy crisis and so and so. And without that, I don't think any of the political parties will be able to provide any kind of meaningful solution to the public. And that's absolutely going to be catastrophic for everyone.
Professor Shahab Enam Khan, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World.